Okay, we should be all set.
All right, very good. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us on tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting here on Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022, via Zoom webinar. Per Governor Baker's order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20. The public will not be allowed to physically access this Board of Selectmen meeting. Public comments and questions may be submitted to the board in advance of the meeting by completing the Google form prior to the meeting by Tuesday, February 1st, 2022 by 4:30 p.m. Also, the meeting will be broadcast live via Seekonk Cable TV 9, streamed live on TV 9's Facebook, and streamed live on the Town of Seekonk's YouTube channel. Mass General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 20F requires any person recording must notify the chairman at the beginning of the meeting. Seeing none, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Could somebody please read the board and committee openings?
Mr. Chairman, volunteers are needed on the following: Board of Health, 1 Board of Selectmen appointment. Capital Improvement Committee, 1 Board of Selectmen, 1 moderator. Commission on Disability, 5 of 13 Board of Selectmen. Conservation Commission, 1 Board of Selectmen. Department of Public Works Building Committee, 2 moderator. Economic Development Committee, 5 Board of Selectmen. Energy Committee, 2 Board of Selectmen. Historical Commission, 3 Board of Selectmen. Human Services Council, 1 Board of Selectmen. Recycling Committee, 2 Board of Selectmen. Zoning Board of Appeals, 2 alternates.
Okay, thank you. Committee speaks. Do we have anybody in the audience, those that have zoomed in? Please, you can use the raise your hand function, and if you dialed in, can you remind me, Carol Ann, what is it they dial in?
Yep, they just dial *9.
Yes, press *9. Okay, seeing no.
Mr. Chair, I did receive a phone call this morning from a resident who said they were going to be calling in. I just wondered if they were on the phone, or weren't sure if this was the opportunity. They did say they wanted to say something. Just to remind them, this is the opportunity.
I see Libby's got her hand raised.
I have a Libby, so let's ask her. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Hello.
Go ahead, Tom.
Hi, ma'am.
Hello.
Hi, can you please identify yourself?
Hi, Thomas Liberatore, 102 Pershing Avenue.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Liberatore. What can we do for you tonight?
I received a couple of letters, one from the town and one certified mail about an abutment next to my property. And when I bought the house in 2014, I was told it was conservation land and nothing could be built there. And now I've been receiving these letters and I'm just concerned.
Can we don't get the copies of those letters? Could you specify as to what nature those letters are for?
Actually, could you just state your address again for me, please?
102 Pershing Avenue.
Pershing?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want, I can clarify based on the conversation I had with the individual and ask him to confirm if that was his concern. I believe he was referencing a letter from the Zoning Board of Appeals for a hearing that's going to be held. I believe it's been the word is escaping me. As continued over until February 14th, and Conservation has a hearing on February 7th in regards to the development or proposed development of 0 Perrin Avenue.
Oh, yeah. So Perrin Avenue is on the other side.
I guess first I would just ask Mr. Liberatore, is that accurate what I just said?
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah, I already know it.
Did you want to voice your concerns?
Well, yeah, I'm kind of concerned because I got a diagram. They sent me a diagram, I guess it was online, and I had it blown up. And I just got a lot of questions about it. Like I said, first of all, I was told it was conservation land and nothing can be built. So I don't know what changed.
Number 2, it's industrial.
That's near the brownfields too.
It's zoned
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get
It's
some of
the
those
apartment.
answers tonight,
The apartments.
Mr. Chair, if it's all right. Do you mind?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Andrade.
as I mentioned this morning, some of those answers I think you may not get tonight because it's not conservation land as in held in trust or by the land trust or anything, that property, but it does contain wetlands or is believed to contain wetlands. So I believe, as I mentioned to you this morning, that it could be simply that the individuals who sold you the property may have misconstrued or used delicate wording to make you think it was conservation land and not just that it was wetlands.
Okay,
But the proposals that are being reviewed on the 14th and the 7th are just that. If you have specific questions that you want to know, like for instance, for conservation, how much of the lot is conservation land, is wetland, I mean. That would be something that you would bring up at the conservation meeting. Same thing with the zoning board of review. If you have any questions as to the uses of what they're going to be putting in at that property, it would be beneficial to bring that up at that point because they're the ones that kind of have the jurisdiction over granting of any special use permits or anything of those lines.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm new to all this. I really, didn't know. This is the first time I've ever got anything like this.
But it's the apartments.
But I mean, they're also, I think, putting apartments.
Hey, may I say something, Mr. Chair, through
Yeah,
you?
Mr. Petronio.
So, sorry, next Monday night is the conservation meeting. Also on the website, there's plans for it, and I know conservation hasn't even looked at this yet. I happen to be sitting there for them too, and I'm looking at
But
them
it's not
as we
zoned for the
speak.
apartments.
As I don't know what the full plan is, I will tell you that the conservation hearing will address any wetland protections. And that would be a perfect forum for you to bring up any of your concerns at that time, because more than likely both the lawyer and the builder will most likely be present to discuss this, as this would be the first time it's going in front of the conservation committee. So it
Okay.
hasn't gone through all the staffing process yet, so the board of selectmen have no, we don't see it on things unless they're an issue or there's something that falls under the purview of the board of selectmen. But this is both, as Mr. Andrade said, the conservation committee and the bill and planning that would be your forums to address this. But by all means, yes, I'm just trying to help you out with the process.
No, I appreciate it. I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
No, very good.
Mr. Liberatore, I think, and I think just to, summarize there from both Mr. Petronio and Mr. Andre, you have two people or two committees that you're going to probably have to voice questions and concerns to. Concom, which, Conservation Commission, which meets on Monday, as Mr. Petronio noted, they'll address any wetlands issues. And as Mr. Andrea had noted, you'll have the Zoning Board of Appeals, which will be taken in consideration with special use. You just need to express what that land is zoned for. If it's industrial and they're looking to put residential in, the concerns that you may have with that, or mixed use or whatever. I'm not sure what the information is, but those are going to be the two avenues out of the gate that you'd need to attend those meetings. And to, maybe even in advance, if you wanted to reach out to some of those board or committee members or department heads, just to express some concern, but make sure you attend those meetings.
Andre's asking a question.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
It does
Okay.
look like the entrance to it is going to be on Pershing Ave, so by all means, please attend those.
yes. Yeah, that's the way I see it too. And the way it looks, they're going to just extend Pershing Avenue, but, I got concerns about they're going to go in that way, and I
Very
just
well
have a lot
looks
of
like they would.
questions. I didn't know what route to take or what to do. So I know you had a meeting tonight, so that's why I just thought I'd ask.
Sure. Well, hopefully this is helpful. And if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to myself or any of the other selectmen. Everybody would be more than happy to help you out.
Okay, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right, no problem. Thank you, sir. Okay. Do we have anybody else? I have We did have something through submittals, so I'll read that.
You have a hand up, Mr. Chair.
Can you hear me? This is,
Yes,
hi.
yes, ma'am.
this is Joanne Leeuwenburgh. I was also joining the call for the exact reason as the previous caller. I live on 16 Edison Avenue, and I've noticed, I've received the letters as well about the buildings that are going to go on in the woods behind our yard. And I have stakes in my backyard and, outlining the property. I've been maintaining the land for over 25 years, so I am very concerned about buildings and going up in that area and then tearing down the woods. So I did have one question. When is the zoning board of appeals meeting?
Let's see. Zoning board.
Mr. Chairman, through you, I believe it's
Yes.
actually February 14th, and I only know that because I assisted them.
Okay,
Okay, that makes it easier.
so
Did that-
February 14th, and I think any agenda items should, if they haven't been already, will be posted on the town website as well.
I just asked, the website has the 7th, February 7th.
That's actually so that they can do a continuance
Okay,
because we were still closed to the public and they wanted to be able to resume in person. They're meeting remotely on the 7th to obtain a quorum so that they can continue the hearing to the 14th.
yeah, so anybody on the call, I guess, would, if you go to the agenda, you would just have to click on the February 7th and you can see the agenda with the documentation there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you have any other questions?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anybody else with questions out there before I go on? Okay, not seeing any. Okay, we did have one question submitted through the Google Forms. This question came from Doreen Ann Taylor, 175 Bradley Street. Her question was, can you please explain the ban renewal for the Aiken School at 200K? What does this represent? So we do have that as item A in our agenda. The response that we have here, and we got information from the treasurer here. From Chris DeFonts, the town treasurer. She stated the Aiken School expansion project was authorized for $13,250,000. When we bonded this project in September 2021, the project expenses were under budget by over $1 million with some outstanding voices remaining. So we bonded it for $12,250,000 and did a short-term note for $200,000 to allow for any additional expenses and the time to wrap that up. That note is now due, the expenses are in, and the school department will need these funds. This ban is to roll this note into FY23, and we will raise this on the recap in December 2022 and pay it in full in FY23, along with the first principal payment on the bond. So hopefully that answers your question, Ms. Taylor.
Can you summarize that again, Mr. Chair, real quick? So the original went for how much?
They were originally authorized for $13,250,000. Because they were under budget, the project expenses were under budget by $1 million. When they went to bond in September of 21, they only bonded out $12,250,000. But they maintained a short-term note for $200,000 to take to allow for any additional expenses that were going to be coming in
I
to
got
wrap
it.
up the project.
So that would put this total at $12,450,000.
That would be how I understand it. Yes,
Thank you.
ultimately, yes. Okay. Okay, any other questions, community speaks? I do have one out there, excuse me, Miss Lang Tang. Did I say that right?
I'm going back. I live at 98 Pershing Avenue, so I gotta go back to that other problem we were talking about for a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry, your name, sir?
Richard Lantang. I think
Richard
what
Lang.
the problem is now we're having and what we're trying to address with you guys is how we're being treated now. They have their equipment at the end of the street. They don't maintain we used to maintain the grass there. They no longer do that. When they take their equipment out, they make as much noise as they can. The town blocked their equipment with snow, and they proceeded to put the snow in front of Mr. Liberatore's house. So we're wondering is how, if something gets built down there, what's this neighborhood going to turn into? Would that come under you guys to try to help us out with that problem?
Well, Mr. Chair, if I could real quick.
Go ahead, Mr. Andrews.
There are certain things with that fall under the purview of other boards and committees, but I would think that anyone who has any issues or doesn't feel that they're being treated appropriately by any boards or committees would come to the Board of Selectmen. So I guess to your point of we're coming to you with this problem, what can you help us with? What are you able to do for us? As was stated earlier, that project hasn't gone through the process yet. So we're here for anything that anybody needs. As far as the specific items that you're mentioning now, I would ask if any complaints were made to the building inspector, Board of Health, or
have complained.
Say that again.
They've been down there. They cleared out that whole land. I think that land's almost ready to be built down already. They went down there, cleared out that land without permits, without nothing. And we have complained. So the town knows what's going on.
So Mr. Andre, so a lot of times the equipment's down there, and I've seen this happen on the Conservation Committee a lot of times, where residents think that there's construction or a road being built. But what it is a heavy piece of equipment gets in there because they got to do the perk tests.
No, the heavy equipment took down all the trees, sir. We have pictures of it.
So this is the first step.
First we're hearing of it.
I became a scumbag to the guy. I had a fight with the guy out my front yard. I became a scumbag when he showed up with a dump truck in a backhoe. I asked him for his permit, and he said he didn't have to show me a permit.
Mr. Chairman, should we just?
Yeah, Mr. Petroni.
That's what I mean, so we'll go to the other boards and see what happens. We just, wanted to voice our opinion, that's all.
No,
I guess
you're heard. Just, Mr. Chairman, maybe we should just have the TA get us a full backstory on it from the appropriate department.
Well, I think in this, but I was just going to say, Mr. Kadim,
Yes.
is this something Mr. Cabral could go down and take a look at that would fall under his scope just to identify?
No, it would be the zoning enforcement officer who is the building commissioner to go down there. But again, I guess I want to reiterate, the process is still going through conservation and ZBA. So I don't know that there's a whole lot that the zoning of officer is going to be able to do unless there's clear violations with regards to the clearing of the property, things of that nature. I know we can touch base with Jen Miller, the conservation agent, to see if they cleared trees that are in the wetlands, which obviously she'll put a cease and desist on that if they are clearing trees without the prior approval of the Conservation Commission. But I would think that she's already gone out there for some type of inspections to look at this, since it's already going to be on the February 14th agenda for conservation, since the notice of intent has been filed. But I do think that the folks that are on this call, I think it's important, and that's why they get notification, because they're abutting landowners to really attend those meetings, conservation, ZBA, and really just kind of articulate what their concerns are and try to see if they can get the appropriate answers for their concerns. And then I would say if they're not receiving what they feel is adequate responses to their, and it may not be what they want to hear, but if it's adequate responses, then that's one thing. But if they're just not receiving the responses that they need for some of their concerns, then I would just say they can contact my office and we can see what we can do to try to help facilitate between the various boards, whether that's ZBA or the Conservation Commission.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add one more thing. Mr. Lanting, rather than you find yourself in an altercation, I mean, if you see some activities that you feel are that shouldn't be happening, or if equipment is operating outside of the noise ordinance bylaws out of those times, I would suggest you put a call in to the police department to make those kind of nuisance complaints. We'd much prefer that you put that call in than find yourself in a confrontation that nobody wants to see anyone get into.
Yeah, I stopped the conversation. I actually even talked to the guy that's planning on building down there. So we've talked it out. We're good with each other now. So,
Okay.
but we don't want it. But we still don't want it down there.
Understood.
I don't blame you.
We got that. Let us know if there's anything else we could try to do to help out.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Okay, committee speaks. All right, we'll have one more opportunity if we missed anybody here this time around. So item A, to consider the vote to award and execute the renewal of the bond anticipation note for the Aiken School project in the amount of $200,000. Mr. Kadim.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I would just be looking to have the board vote to award and execute the renewal for the bond anticipation note for Aiken School.
Okay. And during the community speaks there, I also laid out the explanation as to why we have the need for that note. Are there any other further questions from any of the members? Okay. Seeing none. Mr. Petronio, could you please read the motion to accept and award the note?
Motion to award the $200,000 Town of Seekonk, Massachusetts bond anticipation notes dated February 10th, 2022 and maturing August 1st, 2022 to Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod, the net interest cost of 0.65%. It was the lowest out of 3 bids presented.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please, starting with Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Petronio, aye.
Chris Zora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Okay, item B, discussion with the before I forget, to the members, this does need to be signed, and this needs to be signed by Friday at noon. Ms. Testa will be sending you out a note. If you cannot get to it by Friday at noon, please reach out to me tomorrow so we can figure something out. Or if you don't think you can get there, please reach out to me tomorrow so we can figure something out, or at least her. But we do need to make sure we get that taken care of. Okay. Item B, discussion with the Superintendent of Public Works regarding the National Grid tree mitigation. Mr. Cabral.
So, good evening, members of the board, Chairman Sullivan and Ms. Kadim. I have Jeff Meola on the line from National Grid. I believe his boss also, Luke Fifth, but Jeff's been working with me on the proposal for some tree removals, part of the mitigation. This is similar to what we did back in 2020 along Lincoln Street, all the way down to Mead. They took out a bunch of trees there to preserve their three-phase line they were chasing over there. So they've given us the list, which I supplied to the board members. There are 69 removals and 3 trims along that corridor that they're going to be working on. Most of these trees are on Pine Street, which is really good news for me because I had a lot of trees on my list for removal. So in terms of the amount of work, this is going to save the town about $100,000 worth of money over, the course of probably 8 years. A lot of these trees would be addressed by me and my tree budget. I did meet with the conservation agent, Jennifer Miller. We went out, performed a site visit. We went to every location. There were probably 6 or so trees that we are going to modify from removals to trim that were not in horrible shape. And there was one additional standing stump on Newman Avenue over by Little Tree that has a guy wire in it. They're going to add that to the list for removal as well. That's really all I have. I would like to just turn over a little bit to Jeff Meola. He can talk a little bit more about that corridor that they're trying to preserve in that 3-phase. But I would fully support this and, just wanted to put it out there for you folks in case you had any questions with what they want to do out there.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cabral. Mr. Meola.
Hi, folks. So this is a part of our enhanced vegetation management program that we do throughout the state. Basically, what we do is we identify the worst performing feeders. This happens to be one of them. It's the 9L5. It goes right through Seekonk and then through Rehoboth. And it's been a poor performing feeder because of tree problems. Basically, we've had dead and dying trees that have been falling on the open three-phase lines for some time and causing a number of outages. So what we want to do is come in there and clean them up. What we're seeking to do is, like Mr. Cabral said, is just come in and remove these trees that are along the three-phase, basically mostly Pine Street, some stuff on Newman Ave and Woodland as well. But for the most part, it's like you said, along Pine Street is where most of the town trees are located. We're seeing a lot of oak trees with decay at the base, which is particularly bad because they tend to fail there, and the whole tree tends to come over and take down either the entire three-phase structure or the pole itself. So that's important that we want to get those trees removed. The work would be looking to perform in the springtime. And again, it's just to bolster the performance of the line there. We have met and permissioned with all the abutters of the trees, so all the homeowners on the phases there, and all with the exception of one that we were not able to reach, has signed permissions and is in favor of having the trees removed in front of their properties. So that is a good thing. They're aware of the situation and the need to have these trees removed. That's pretty much all I have. I'll open it up to certainly any questions. This is our EVM program. We do have two programs, a hazard tree program and an EVM program. So this program also includes trimming out the entire line. So would be pruning around the entire line, as well as ground cutting under the entire line. So we'd be removing saplings, things that can grow up into the line itself. So we want to improve the performance of this poor feeder as much as we can, because it's been such a poor performer for us in the past. But any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Meola. I'm going to start with Mr. Zora. You had a question?
Yeah, I just had a question regarding the stumps. Will you guys be grinding it down in any that are in bad spots next to the road, or?
We don't grind stumps. We never have. What we do is we'll cut the stump down as close as we can to the ground. So as flush as we can get it to the ground. That tends to be sufficient. For as many years that we've been doing the program, that hasn't tend to be an issue. But we don't grind stumps, no.
Mr. Cabral, will you be utilizing our new stump grinder for any of these that you could see as a posed danger for a car if they were to get involved with a little accident? It'll be near the edge of the street.
So, yeah, we would certainly take that into consideration. Most of these, just so you're aware, are along the wooded area, Pine Street, Woodland Avenue. So it's all wooded area. They're off the road a little bit. They're not like right at the edge of the roadway. And National Grid typically will just flush cut. There are a few along Newman Avenue. I don't think none of these are in the sidewalk area, but there's a couple at the back of the sidewalk. We may take it upon ourselves later, knowing how much work they're doing, to grind a few of those stumps down. But for the most part, I didn't really see any concern out there when we did our site visit.
Very good. I know the last time they came to town, there was a couple that you had to grind down due to the, hazardous condition it could potentially add in the future. You guys were proactive on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zora. Mr. Andrade?
It's kind of tied to what Mr. Zora was asking, but it was more, Mr. Cabral, is my recollection correct that, and this is no reflection on National Grid, but that when this was done last time, there was a mess left everywhere and trees left everywhere and waiting weeks to be removed. Is my recollection correct, or am I thinking about another event?
I think that was Rehoboth you were talking about.
So That there was some concern because they were doing work in Rehoboth. However, in Seekonk, and we've worked well with Jeff in the past, there were no concerns in town. I don't know if they just had a more aggressive crew out there leaving things behind. There was minimal stuff left behind. They basically coordinated that with me if they were going to leave things. We did not run into those issues that were issues really in Rehoboth that last go around.
Okay.
Although-
So then
although
I
I-
guess,
I was gonna say, I'll build on what you said there, Mr. Andrew, because I do recall, I mean, that it seemed to be that there was a half-cut tree on Lincoln Street for the better part of several months. That took quite some time to get taken out, and also have the parts of the trunk removed. And I think that's probably, along with the lines collectively here that, of the stump and how close we're gonna get it cut. But it's, we see a lot of the tree work getting done, and that's great, but then there's, tree trunks being left, and it does take a little bit longer. At least I feel that it does, not in every instance, of course, but there have been plenty of times where I've driven past some work and it just, the tree company, whoever you have hired, leaves it, and then it doesn't get picked up for another couple of weeks or however long it takes. And it could be even more than that too. Is there a reason for that, Mr. Meola, or is that something that we can expect to be improved?
I think in the past, we have struggled with a couple of vendors that we do not use any longer for those reasons. So I think you can expect to see an improvement in that, as far as the wood getting picked up in a timely manner and stumps not being left. Sometimes they will leave what we call a statue, which is a tall standing stump up. If it's considered more of a danger, they'll do what's called a standing pick. Well, they'll actually use the log truck to actually hold the stump up while it's being cut down. And that can require a kind of a special setup, but it shouldn't take more than a couple of weeks to get that down. So yes, in the future going forward, you'll see a big improvement in the time that the wood gets picked up moving forward.
that was the intent of,
Mr.
that was
Meola,
the
what's
intent
your,
of my question.
yeah, Mr. Meola, what's your standard that you give to the tree cutters? What do you guys expect?
With regards to wood pickup?
Yeah.
With regards to wood pickup, the wood shouldn't be left there more than a couple weeks tops.
Okay, so if we get to that point and we see that wood hanging around by 2 weeks, because frankly, and I say this with regards to the residents that are having the work done in the front of their house, right? And wood's just sitting there, right? And it's there for longer than 2 weeks. Who are they going to call that's going to be able to answer their phone and get that wood picked up, aside from Mr. Cabral?
Well, they've got all the residents that we've permissioned all have my phone number. So that's typically, my phone will be ringing off the hook, as it was, as I've experienced in the past when that happens. I get those angry phone calls all the time, and trust me, that's not something I want to deal with either. The only reason that wood would be sitting on the ground for an extended period of time, that would be any kind of unacceptable reason, would be that, there's an equipment breakage, a log truck was down and they had to source one from another company. And we use several vendors, so we do have the ability to move another vendor in there with their equipment to move the wood out of there. So again, like I said, moving forward, I'm not seeing an issue with wood being picked up.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cabral, can you share with Mr. Meola the location I gave you the other day over on Reed before the snow?
Is there a log there?
So I did look into that. There was a tree. There was a tree being removed by the same company, Mr. Sullivan, that we had taken down right in that area opposite along the Wheeler property. So I believe that was not the one that was taken down by National Grid. It was taken down by Northeastern Tree for me, and they had left that wood behind to come back to pick it up at a later time.
Okay.
Okay, we don't use Northeastern Tree, so I don't know.
You do not? Okay.
No.
I guess I would convey what Mr. Sullivan said, is that the expectation is that what's cut down is going to be immediately removed. There should be no barring mechanical failure or anything, should be no reason for a 4-week, 6-week wood hanging around. So that's our at least my expectation. I don't know if it's the rest of the board.
No,
No.
and that's my expectation as well. And typically the crew should run, you know, an ideal setup is we want to see them running with a couple of bucket trucks and a log truck right behind them, so that as they're moving down the road, they're picking wood up. That's the ideal situation. We don't want to see them just putting wood on the ground way ahead and not getting it picked up in a timely manner. So
Okay.
that's not an acceptable situation.
All right, very good. Are there any other questions or comments for either Mr. Cabral or Mr. Meola?
When are you guys gonna start again? You said springtime or?
In the springtime, yeah. There have been just so you know, there have been a number of residents that have requested that they want to keep the wood. So you will see wood. That has been, you know, they've asked us to leave the wood there. So we'll leave them the logs. So you will see some wood around town. That's been requested that us leave the wood behind for the residents. So in that case, you will see some wood, but typically those people are pretty aggressive about getting it cleaned up and cut.
Yeah, if you guys communicate that list to Mr. Cabral, because when the questions come flying from the board, we're going to him first on that.
Sure. Yeah.
That way he's not coming to you.
No, I understand. Yeah. And in
So-
the past, those people that have wanted wood, I found them to be pretty aggressive about getting it cut and split. So.
Okay, good. Seeing no other questions, does anybody have anything else? All right, thank you, Mr. Meola. Thank you, Mr. Cabral.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear me. I did have one other question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I just, for Jeff, in terms of wood that you're leaving behind for residents, right? So it doesn't cause confusion on, is it town, is it private? Because you are also taking down a number of private trees. Could you just ensure that wood gets left like at least, 6-7 feet off the edge of the pavement so that it's not in the town right away, which will make it a lot easier for me to figure out whether it's a town tree that was cut or a private tree that's being left behind?
Yes, we can do that. Yeah, we try to leave it outside of the, off the road, out of the way.
All right, we can come up with something too. I know you're going to do this work in the spring. I'll be in touch with you beforehand. Maybe we'll get some ribbons and mark them a little bit too, just so I know. If the board members have questions, I'm going to go out and look at the trees. It'd be great ahead of time if I knew that it was on private property or so on, just to make it easier. We'll coordinate more in the spring though.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
All right. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
All right, item C, consider the acceptance of the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security e-citation grant program for the maximum amount of $11,000. Looks like we have Chief Isabella and Mr. Gadim.
Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to Chief Isabella to handle this item.
Okay, Chief.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, this grant is a EOPS grant, Office of Public Safety grant that would allow us to put e-ticket printers into every police vehicle, along with the programming that goes along with issuing the e-ticket. There is no cost to the town. It's they have a vendor that comes in, equips all of the vehicles, sets everything up. They also provide 6 rolls of printer paper, which is approximately 600, equal to 600 tickets. After that, we would obviously have to pay for the printer paper, which is a minimal cost. But it would really allow us to modernize our way of issuing citations.
Okay. And to be clear, through the paperwork, there was no matching funds to be required for this, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Do any members have any questions for the chief? All right. Seeing none, can I have a motion, Mr. Petronio?
Motion to accept the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security e-citation grant program as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please, Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Petroni, aye.
Zora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, gentlemen.
You too. All right, item D, consider the acceptance of a donation in the amount of $694.41 from Rocky's Ace Hardware to the Seekonk Animal Shelter. I don't think we have anybody on, no, so, all right, do I have a motion to accept the donation from Rocky's Ace Hardware?
So moved.
Seconded, Adam Petroni.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none. Roll call, please.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Petroni, aye.
Zora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Thank you to the folks over at Rocky's Ace Hardware. Appreciate the donation. Item E, consider accepting the minutes of January 5th, 2022 and January 19th, 2021.
Do we want to consider them both at the same time, or
Yes, we had everybody present at both meetings.
motion to accept the minutes of January 5th and January 19th, 2022? There's a typo on this.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Oh, do we have a second?
Michael Healy,
Yes, I
aye.
seconded.
Adam Petroni, aye.
Zora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Community speaks. See if we have anybody else. Seeing none. Other business, do you have anything, Mr. Kadim?
Nothing at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, town administrators report.
Just a couple items. First, just update for the South End Fire Station. The building committee is meeting tonight with the OPM to discuss the design services RFQ that was drafted by myself and reviewed by the OPM. So once we get some word from the committee, I'll be able to incorporate any of the changes that they may have and go out to bid. I'll forward to the board once that's solidified what the timeline looks like, just so that the board is up to speed on when we can anticipate bids coming in and potential awards coming before the Board of Selectmen.
This is going for architectural services, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So are we including, does the RFQ include independent, actual third-party cost estimates?
So that was one of the conversations that we did have with the OPM, and he and himself absolutely suggested that we go in that direction. So that is included as part of that. Yep. And we may actually do it through his contract versus designer services. So that's just up in the air as to which direction we want that.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have anything else, Mr. Kadim?
The only other item I really want to just bring up is really trying to take the opportunity to thank all the public safety departments with the storm that just took place this weekend, especially DBW, who worked over 38 hours straight during the storm. But we also need to recognize, which is often forgotten, is our police and fire departments and communication departments that man the storm throughout the duration as well, and have additional staff and a challenging task to continue to provide public safety services to the community. So they did a phenomenal job. I got to tell you, just driving around in other communities, I'm proud to say that we've done a tremendous job really handling it and seeing the roads down to pavement pretty much right into Sunday, where communities are still doing some major cleanups, and that goes out kudos to our department heads and all the staff members under them that worked tirelessly through the storm. I will say they are prepared. There's potentially another storm coming Thursday night into Friday. This looks to be more rain and sleet, so we did get some additional sand, and I sent this over to the board. We got 300 tons of sand coming in and another 100 tons coming in hopefully tomorrow. So we're prepared for that. It looks like the rain will transition into pretty much a sleet freezing situation as the temperatures start to drop into Friday. So we'll be prepared for that, and we have enough salt on hand to be able to address that situation moving forward. That's all I have.
Very good. Okay.
Uh,
Mr. Petronio, did you want
I
to
have a
add?
quick question. So on our snow and ice, snow and sanding budget line, I feel like we just discussed the impact that certain storm would have on it. Have you seen what impact this has had to that budget?
Total cost, no. I got the cost. I made sure that leading up to the storm, that all the department heads were monitoring the costs associated with the storm, just in the event that there was any type of MEMA or FEMA reimbursement monies coming in. The fire department has sent that over to me. I'm still waiting on DPW and police and communications. A lot of police and communications won't really have too much because they were staffed at the normal levels. Police was essentially overtime, and then it goes back down to Mr. Cabral with the vendors and the overtime he had with his folks. So we'll have that hopefully within the next week or so.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Board of Selectmen liaison reports and comments. Bristol County Advisory Board.
Nothing at this time, Mr. Chairman, but I do have one other thing if you want to go around, or you want me to say it now?
I'll tell you what, let's go through all the other boards and then we'll come back for individual comments.
Okay.
Is that good? Okay.
Yep.
Aiken School expansion.
Nothing at this time, waiting for the spring.
Okay. 540 Arcade Ave.
Sean wants to take over, but we do have a meeting next week, I'm sorry, with the architects and the general contractor on February 14th at 5 o'clock on Zoom. I'm not sure if Mr. Gadim has anything he wants to add to that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that really is just the official kickoff that we're going to have for the actual construction of the project. As the board's aware, we did just appropriate the additional $400,000, which allowed us to move forward with the contract for the general contractor to get started. So we'll have everybody involved. We will be including Jeff Meola, the local inspector, who will be serving as our clerk of the works for that project. So he'll be included in that meeting, and that'll be his official meeting starting off, so he can kind of be part of that and going on site. At some point, he'll get to every single day being on site with the initial ramp up, probably maybe not every day, but that will give us a little bit of the coverage that we need with the size of the project that's going in.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Board member comments. I'll start with you, Mr. Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got two things. One, I just want to echo the sentiment of Mr. Kadim in regards to the storm over the past weekend. DPW, as you well know, has strived and worked extremely hard to provide the best service they can to the town. And I think it was proven over this weekend. Without a doubt, it was probably one of the toughest storms they faced in a lot of years. And when you wake up on a Sunday morning and your roads open up and you can get out and you can move around, that's a testament to the job that those guys did. So kudos to them and to all the public safety people also. And another thing, I'm hoping at some point, I'm not sure everybody's aware, I caught it just by chance, but we had recently two special police officers retire after 35 years of service, Jim Roy and Bill Delaire. I'm hoping that at some point, once we go back in person, Mr. Chairman, we can have them in personally and thank them for their service. Thank you.
I caught that as well. Thank you for making a note of that, Mr. Healy. Do any other members have any other comments? Mr. Andrade?
Just to echo the comments that Mr. Healy had and Mr. Kadim, and I think everybody had about DPW. I actually received a text on Sunday morning saying that from an individual that was just bringing to attention how good our roads looked in comparison to, and I can tell you exactly what it said, in comparison to East Providence and Barrington, not to single them out, but that our roads looked fantastic. He just happened to go through those roads, and that he was actually surprised at how good our roads were compared to. So that's it.
Great. Excellent. All right. Anything else, Mr. Andrade?
That's it.
All right. Mr. Zora.
I agree with everyone else about the DPW and with Mr. Healy about bringing the two recently retired special officers in once we meet up and to recognize them for their 35 years of service.
Agreed. Thank you. Mr. Petronio?
I mean, they're all great sentiments. I don't want to belabor the issue, but respect and kudos.
Yes. So, and again, I'll also reiterate as well from me as well. Thank you to the special officers that are retired and many years of service. Greatly appreciative of the time that you've given the town, and also to DPW. Yeah, just great job, guys. Appreciate it. Streets look great. Did a great job. Very difficult storm to manage. So thank you very much for your hard work, including the contractors and people who had their first nights out on this kind of thing. So it was a challenge. Really appreciate it. Does anybody have anything else? Seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to enter into executive session to conduct strategy sessions with respect to negotiations with the deputy police chief per Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 21A2, as having a discussion in open session would be detrimental to litigation or bargaining position of the town. Item B, to conduct strategy sessions with respect to negotiations with the Director of Parks and Recreation per Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 21A2, as having a discussion in open session would be detrimental to the litigation or bargaining position of the town. Item C, to conduct strategy sessions with respect to negotiations with the administrative assistant to the town administrator per Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 21A2, as having a discussion in open session would be detrimental to the litigation or bargaining position of the town. Item D, to conduct strategy sessions with respect to negotiations with the Director of Public Works per Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 21A2, as having the discussion in open session would be detrimental to the litigation or bargaining position of the town. And item E, to act under the authority of the open meeting law, general laws, Chapter 30A, subsection 22F and subsection 22G, and review and approve executive session minutes of January 5th, 2022 pursuant to general law, Chapter 30A, section 21A7.
So moved. Adam Petronio.
Chris Zora, second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Petronio, aye.
Chris Zora,